everything that it takes.
The possibility Afghanistan might be the future of the world in this case,
Yes.
so like the hub of investment or connecting different regions together.
The potential is there for trading, even for energy supply.
Okay, nice. Hello, hola, привет, hello, Nagadev, Maswara. It's me, Rayan, from Lebanon. I'm here at the Global Peace Chain Summit, Doha, Qatar 2024. And I'm here with one of the delegates, Ahmed from Afghanistan. So Ahmed, it's good to have you here. I think we're all very curious to know how life is in Afghanistan at the moment and what are the misconceptions we no longer see on the media about Afghanistan. Like, what should the people know?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think if I start with the biggest misconception, around the world, people and agencies, they hold this thinking that Afghanistan has been relying on international aid for so long. If you look at the figures, that will make sense, but the reality is not so. We have around 70% of our population living in rural areas who never benefited.
So they're self-sustained?
Yes, the rural population, they never benefited from the international aid to that extent that their lives would rely on international aid. They mostly rely on their very traditional way of living, which includes agriculture and livestock and some small trading. But I think this is a reality that the world should know. As a country.
Because we all know Afghanistan is always international aid, and so it's something I personally do not know.
I'm sure a lot of people don't know it. And even the biggest political changes in the country.
So what else should we know that we don't know about Afghanistan?
I think another misconception or misinformation about Afghanistan is that throughout the last 4 decades, only a very small group of people from Afghanistan misrepresented the country.
Okay.
We could barely have a really national identity as a whole. If we go back to the communist era in Afghanistan, that idea was bought and promoted by a very limited number of people. But again, the world always conceived it as a national support for the communism government, which was not the case. And the reality is, it's the case.
It's they all have a national identity.
As a national identity, yeah. I don't think throughout the history, at least the last 5 decades, there was any ideology-based government that we would share at the national level. There was always some groups, political parties, though being the minority, but of course, as everywhere, they are labeled as elite group. It was mostly their case. We had people fighting against Soviet in Afghanistan, to which official figures says Afghans, like 2 million Afghans lost their lives fighting against Soviet Union. But the same leaders, same groups, they never hesitated for a moment in 10 years time difference to sit with the same Russian people, signing deals, I don't know, welcoming them, giving them protocols in the country. So that's why I say I don't remember an identity for the last 5 decades that could be labeled as a national identity of Afghanistan. Like even the latest failure of democracy in Afghanistan, it was because it never trickled down to the communities, to farmers, to teachers, to rural population. And it's always been some time of contest among the urban and rural population in Afghanistan. And in last 7 times of regime changes, the rural population always won and prevailed and took back power.
So in this case, you see a future for Afghanistan. I feel like you maybe still have hope that things will get better, it will change maybe years from now, or what's your perspective?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I can tell you Afghanistan as a country, considering its geopolitical advantages, and
It will never stay the same. It will change at some point.
yes. Yep. So throughout the history, unfortunately, at one time of history, Afghanistan was considered as a connecting geography, where we were connecting the Silk Road between the Central Asia and the South Asia. We still have some remainings of Silk Road infrastructure in central Afghanistan. But then everything shifted, and when Brits came to Afghanistan in 18th century, since then Afghanistan is considered as a buffer state, no more as a state that can connect the region, but more of a buffer state between rivaling superpowers of last 2 centuries.
So what do you think is the future of Afghanistan?
I think we have everything that it takes as a country to again hold our status as a connecting country, bridging and connecting the very two separated areas of Central Asia and South Asia. We also have, that might be surprising, but we can connect South Asia easily to Europe as well, through Iran and Turkey.
So there's a possibility Afghanistan might be the future of the world in this case,
Yes.
so like the hub of investment or connecting different regions together.
The potential is there for trading, even for energy supply.
Okay, nice.
Central Asian countries are rich with a few energy sources, but the South Asia is not the case. I mean, which country other than Afghanistan has the potential to facilitate this energy supply from Central Asia
That's
to
a
South
good
Asia?
point.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, you still live in Afghanistan.
Yes, I do.
So I think people may be wondering, why are you still there? Like, do you ever think of leaving?
Never, no.
Why?
I don't think as beautiful as Afghanistan is, and it's, I mean, maybe there was some sense of nationalism there, which I personally wouldn't prefer. But I think as beautiful as Afghanistan is, it's not a country a person would think to leave.
And what makes it that?
I think the great potential Afghanistan has.
So basically what's keeping you there is hope.
It is hope.
And I know you're giving back to your community. You have an NGO,
Yes.
peace building, community building. That could be another reason that you're giving back to your community.
And I think there's nothing more satisfying.
Like giving back to your community.
You know what your community needs, and you're able to contribute.
And I think no one else can know better than a local himself what his community needs, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's another thing to discuss when it comes to international aid and how well they understand the context and the needs in the country. But whatever little within our capacity, we try to make the international aid more relevant to the needs of communities, playing the role that we have in between of international agencies and communities. But it's not always been so perfect.
Of course, there are challenges.
Yes, we always had these issues of aligning needs with aid, because aid comes based on the international agency's priorities. That's a factual matter. But now you have to align them with the real needs of communities. Right?
Well, I agree. So if I were to ask you now, what is the last message you want to give to the world about Afghanistan? Like, what's a message you want people to keep in their heads, like in their minds, after listening to this podcast, for them to remember?
Well, if you've heard about Afghanistan and never been to Afghanistan, you have to visit it yourself. It's a very unique tourism spot. I don't know how many countries can have so many different touristic attractions. Like if you're a big fan of safari, for example, we have a region in Afghanistan with the very wide, big deserts. If you're a fan of skiing and all everything entertainment that it takes snow, we have a big region that gives you that. Other than having
I think
beaches,
the culture as well.
the culture,
It's very rich.
it goes back centuries. And also being the crossroad of different civilizations throughout the history,
Yeah.
I think you will find that some bits and pieces of every ancient culture and civilization in Afghanistan.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So I guess whoever doesn't know should visit to see this.
absolutely, absolutely. And also maybe help us to make it more convenient for you, for the world to come and see Afghanistan.
Well, thank you so much, Ahmed, for sharing your insights and perspectives on Afghanistan. We hope the best for Afghanistan, and we do hope you get to see a brighter future for your beloved country.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us.